Coming up on the CHGO Cubs podcast, driven by Toyota, the Cardinals might be punting on 2026. So long, Sonny Gray. Plus, details now on the newest Cubs reliever and the deal they signed him to. And we are grading all-star Matty Boyd. Come fly with us. CHGO Cubs next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast, driven by Toyota. Let's go places. Luke Stuckmeyer and Joey Christopoulos with you on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. That's right, it is Bird Week at CHGO. Guess what? Sarah's back running the ones and twos today here in Studio C. Her first voyage with us in Studio C for Cubs.
Go Cubs.
Thank you, sir.
Smooth sailing.
Back.
Smooth sailing.
Everybody has recovered from the incident. And we will talk about the trade that followed the incident. Actually, first there was the trade, then there was the incident in the office, which we've taken care of. Our guy Ron here is in the live YouTube chat. Hey, Ron. Hi, Becky. Everybody out there, make sure you subscribe. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a total stranger. Craig says.
Craig manifesting Scooble every day.
Shaw for Scooble.
I love it.
Shaw for Scooble. That would be a happy Thanksgiving, I think, for most people, except for maybe Shaw. We're going to grade our guy, Matty Boyd, and our friend Jared Willis will join us remotely to talk about that. He's got a grade for him as well. Talk about Cubs pitching. But first, we had the deal in the division with the Cardinals trading their best pitcher away to the Red Sox. Okay. So Sonny Gray sent away with $20 million to the Red Sox. They get their number 2 starter behind Crochet. And the Cardinals get cheaper and look like they're punting on 2026 unless something crazy is to follow that.
I mean, the question that I had following up was, who's next? I mean, I've heard Wilson Contreras thrown out there as a possible guy they'd like to get off the books.
Maybe that's why he showed that Cubs ring.
I was going to say, unfortunately, good luck with that, Cardinal faithful down there. Look, any day the Cardinals get worse is a good day here for me personally.
Yeah, me too.
And a good day for the Chicago Cubs. And you can't help but feel like, hey, Bobby Blanco, new job, new schedule. I've been watching.
Beautiful.
All right, smash that like button. Good to see you back in the chat. You can't help but feel like as the Cardinals tear it down to the studs that they may be entering a little bit of a valley for the next couple of years. Music to my ears.
Me too.
Anytime you have a couple of teams, not just the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have always been convenient pinatas for the NL Central. Anytime that you want to compete within your division, you have a couple teams that you can kind of bat around a little bit, pick up a couple easy wins, have a couple segments on the show where you go, they need to do 2 out of 3 or sweep this series against the Cardinals or the Pirates. That's great news. And you have to wonder that, I don't want to get too big on it, but from just the Cardinals' perspective also, you're hearing, are the Marlins spending money? Are the Rangers slashing payroll? The Cardinals are slashing payroll.
Are the Pirates in on free agents?
Right. It's a weird, almost upside down, opposite world that MLB is going through right now with the offseason. You can't help but feel like kind of what's coming down the road may have something to do with it.
You used to know who was serious and who wasn't serious.
Right.
And now there's this offseason has just got this strange story going back and forth about who might be, who's pretending, but just enough not to make Major League Baseball mad and to get the attention of, the next CBA. Listen, getting the Cardinals' best pitcher out of the division is a great thing. I don't think they're replacing Sonny Gray with anybody of that quality in the offseason. The question becomes, okay, it was 2 young pitchers was the cost, and they sent away $20 million. So really, the Red Sox are giving him a deal that was upgraded a little bit, but they had to trade away 2 of their good young pitchers to the Cardinals. So if the Cubs are going to acquire one of these frontline starters, which Sonny Gray is one of those types of guys, What's it going to cost them? Now, before we get to that answer, we should point out that we're not afraid of birds at CHGO.
Not anymore.
We're not afraid of birds.
We were maybe this morning.
We've never been afraid of the Cardinals.
But now.
We've never been afraid of the descendant of the dinosaur pterodactyl. Okay? So earlier today, when the office was threatened, our lives were threatened by a descendant of a pterodactyl. The great beast flew into our doors, and our boss, Jake, came cowering to me and said, Luke, help, help. And Sean, why is he not here? Because he's so shaken by the events of earlier this morning. A great beast flew into the building.
With murder in its eyes.
Murder in its eyes.
Well.
And when I say a beak long enough to be a sword, to go right through somebody's body, I'm talking about a bird with a beak. A beak this long, okay? And it was loose in our building, and people were cowering everywhere. Emma did get video of the beast, but she was 50 yards away and behind me, okay? And I said, Jake, don't worry. Pet Detective Stuckmeyer's got this. Get behind me. And
it almost picked up Carm, too, and just started just parading him around.
Yes.
It was like toying with him, really.
Have you ever seen an eagle's talons? Do you ever know how big they are?
Yeah,
I saw an eagle nest at a zoo in Michigan City, Indiana, and it's so big you can't believe it. It's bigger than a kid's bed. So when this great beast flew down with its sword-like beak, people jumped. I did it first, but it was just a natural human reaction. And then I said,
when people are in danger,
that's right.
You know, your spidey senses, your Stucky senses go up and you leap into action.
And I said, easy, great beast. Easy, big fella. And I calmed the great beast. And then I threw a bull's blanket over it. I wrapped it up in that blanket. It tried to get away. We struggled for a second, but I did not harm that bird because I'm not afraid of birds. And then Sarah has the video to prove it. I majestically released it back into the wild as if to say, bring it on, Cardinals. Bring it on, Eagles. We fear not the pterodactyl descendants.
I forgive you, but never come back.
Never come back here. Do you have the video, Sarah? Can we play it for our people at YouTube? It was very scary. It was very scary. Bird trade thing. We're not afraid of the birds anymore. Where's Carm? See, I get the beast cornered up against the window. Jake thinks somehow this bird's just going to decide to fly out a window. That's not the way it works. Okay?
Called the police. They said no.
Did you see
we're
it?
not
Did
coming.
You see that monster?
Wow.
Oh wait, I think
that was Emma shrieking. If you didn't notice. Now I've got the beast in another corner. Somebody finally came into the building. He's like, what's going on? He left. He was afraid. He went into his office.
Didn't want that smoke.
I was looking for Jim Cook, our sales guy, the
Couldn't
head
be
sales,
found.
super guru of sales. I saw him an hour later. I'm like, where is Jim Cook at? He was cowering with his door locked
Tucked
upstairs.
tail.
Two metal doors and a security bar in front of him. But we released it into the wild. It flew away unharmed. And now that we've done, karma comes back. We were nice to the Cardinals. It's time to be nice to us.
Oh, yeah. I like where that is. And all I can say on behalf of myself is I'm going to do the best that I can to host the show when Chicago gives you the key to the city next week, and you won't be able to do the show. I'm going to do just the best that I can. But when a hero comes along, Luke Stuckmeyer.
Come fly with me, as Michael Jordan once said. Hey, we should tell you about the Black Friday merch sale. We've got already up for the diehards. It's already on. If you're a diehard, you got early access to this bad boy because our Black Friday sale is our biggest one of the year. Save up to not 50%, not 60%, 90%. You can save up to 90% early access for diehards only. Then I believe on actual Black Friday, it will open up to everybody else. Is that the deal?
Correct. And the deals will still be fantastic and amazing. But we want to give the diehards the first in line, and we're practically just giving these away. And I own at least 4 of those on that graphic.
Yeah. Anyway, some good stuff out there. Make sure you check it out. It is time for our Taking the Temp segment. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. What do you think? What is the temperature of the division after Sonny Gray has been traded away?
Well, I like what Ron said here in the chat. I'm worried about the Reds. I imagine if they snag Schwarber, he'd hit 60 homers there. LOL.
At least.
Look, when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds, I feel like we've played this game pretty often over the last 2 or 3 years of the Reds are coming. Watch out for the Reds. Who's your dark horse candidate? It's the Cincinnati Reds. I'm a little bit more in a wait and see, but you cannot deny that they are a tough matchup because of just the pitching that they have.
Playoff Reds.
Yeah. Who knows if they bring back Zach Littell, but Andrew Abbott was a fantastic acquisition for them. Hunter Green, when he's healthy, one of the nastier arms in the National League. And the Milwaukee Brewers aren't going anywhere, right? But the thing that at least you can count on with the Milwaukee Brewers is they aren't going to spend money. Right. They're just going to find something in-house, turn it into gold, and, take Andrew Vaughn off the street and obviously turn him into some kind of monster. Like, it's kind of expected. So it's a little bit more ho-hum. The St. Louis Cardinals, though, moving on from Sonny Gray, and we'll see what else happens, right? They can move on from Nolan Arenado. They can move on from Wilson Contreras. They could just try and say we're going to try and start building around Mason Wynn. And I thought they got a pretty good return. I think it was the number 5 prospect from the Red Sox. It's not bad. It's nothing to wag your finger at.
Young pitching.
When you're moving on from Sonny Gray. But again, this creates more opportunities for the Chicago Cubs to flex a little bit and really wrap and get a stranglehold on this division if they want to. They've had this opportunity before in the past, Luke, and they've failed to seize it. They've put themselves in a position to take it, and clearly the last 2 years they've failed because the Brewers have won the division. But when you see moves like this, it further emboldens myself, at least as a Cubs fan, that this is a great opportunity for the Cubs to not just take over the division, but, again, become real big-time contenders in the National League.
I just know that when I looked at the division and zoomed out, the thing that popped into my mind was every team has a frontline beast.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's good pitching in this division. Now to take that away from the Cardinals, that weakens them at the knees, no question about it. Like, he was their guy. Like, we can say, you can debate who it is, but it's probably Horton now. You would look at another team and would say, oh, Horton, he could be a beast. Hunter Green, he can be a beast. Paul Skeens is a beast, right?
Correct.
Whether it's Freddie Peralta, if he's there or not, like, they've got a beast. Mizrowski could be their new beast. But Sonny Gray's gone. And what does that do to the cost? Would you be willing to give up 2 young pitching prospects to get the next Sonny Gray out there? I would argue that of the guys that I've seen out there, where would you rank Sonny Gray compared to Mackenzie Gore? Or just talking about the guys that you'd have to trade for, Sandy Alcantara? Or how does Sonny – he was more proven last year than any of them. Cost 2 young pitchers.
So we like to put these guys attached to numbers, right? Is he a number 1? Is he a number 5? And anywhere in between. I personally think that in terms of stuff, I think maybe Sonny Gray's best days are behind him. Mm-hmm. But even if that is true and if that is the case, I still think the guy is an incredibly smart, crafty, intelligent pitcher that can go out there and give you a really great veterans effort every time out. And he can be a guy that can help lead in the top part of your rotation. If you had to have me put a number on it, I think he honestly slides somewhere between a 2 and a 3, maybe more like a 2.5. You'd like to have him as your 2, but if he's your 3, then you feel really, really good about your rotation. So pairing him with Garrett Crochet, Brian Bello, I don't know what they do with Lucas Giolito with the Red Sox. I think this is a move that's going to make the rotation better. Is he the perfect running mate? Is he the 1A is he the 1B to Crochet's 1A? I don't think so. I think those days are maybe behind him a little bit, but as a 2 and a 3, I think any rotation, I think he slides in there pretty nicely.
If they had to start game 2 in a playoff series and you had Crochet in game 1, I'd feel pretty good about Sonny Gray throwing for me in game number 2.
And from a Cubs perspective, if you had Cade Horton and if you put Sonny Gray into our rotation right now and you lined him up for that Milwaukee Brewers series, I think Sonny Gray is probably getting the ball before Matthew Boyd or Jamison Tyone by a tick above.
Cardinals wouldn't probably trade him to the Cubs.
No.
And that's just that. But now you got to find a team that's willing to do that. A team that says, you know what? We'll take on the contract. We'll take on the contract, and you give us some prospects, and you seem to have an excess. Now, hopefully it's position players they want, not pitching, because I don't know that the Cubs have that in the farm system. But if you want 2 young players, maybe that is what it costs to get one of those guys. Maybe it's more. Maybe it's more than Sonny Gray because of the age.
And to put a quick button on it, too, I think the restructuring or the money that was exchanging hands basically makes it a 1-year, $20 million commitment for Sonny Gray this year. I would say that the Shota Imanaga $22 million, it's fairly similar. I do think
Didn't cost you prospects.
I think Sonny Gray is a bit of a better pitcher,
Yeah.
but it didn't cost you prospects. It's not going to cost you a ton of money. And if you are the Red Sox, you pay those prospects to take on less money. But again, when people were worried about the Shota Imanaga money, this is all within the ballpark of I don't think the Cubs wildly overpaid for Shota Imanaga to have him come back.
All right, we're getting ready to grade Matthew Boyd and tell you about the contract details of the newest Cubs reliever with our guy Jared Willis. But first, a word from our sponsors here at the CHGO Cubs Podcast.
Hey, Cubs fans, our friends at Sunnyside Dispensary are here to elevate your holiday and football season. It's Sunnyside, your home for judgment-free shopping. They have a crazy selection right now with over 100 different strains to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They got spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. So stop in the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff. Head to their website right now if you want to for bright buys every day. It includes 50% off your first 3 online purchases only if you use the promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. For returning customers, you can use code CHGO50. And remember, exclusions apply. It's Sunnyside Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. It's Sunnyside.
Toyota-thon is on. Get your Toyota while the getting's good.
Come on.
Score value on the versatile RAV4, America's #1 selling vehicle. Ride with Tacoma, our rugged weekend warrior, or hit the road with Camrys available all-wheel drive. Red hot savings are ready for you at Toyota-thon. Visit your Toyota dealer today. Toyota, let's go places. What a time it is right now in the history of our world. An opportunity like this comes along once in a lifetime.
Only once
a chance
in
to
a
become
millennia.
a CHGO diehard, to hold that CHGO diehard card, that credibility right in your hand, get access to our exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts on future merch, plus access to the Discord lounge. And of course, there is a diehard deal going on right now at the merch store.
Black Friday
deal. Check it out. Diehards with early access to that bad boy. Go to allchgo.com for the latest information on how you can join the thousands of CHGO diehards already in our community. We affectionately call them sickos. We would like to call you that as well.
Join us.
Back on the CHGO Cubs podcast, driven by our friends at Toyota. And speaking of friends, our guy Jared Willis is here. He's in his Thanksgiving plaid. He looks like he's ready to hunt birds. Jared, have you ever gone bird hunting like I did today?
I have not. So you're a step ahead of me there.
I've never hunted a bird with a rifle or anything else. Or I guess it wouldn't be a rifle. A shotgun, I suppose, would be enough to take down most birds. But if you haven't seen the video, you're going to want to look online. I saved the office from a giant beast with a massive beak today. I fleeced it, if you will. And then I grabbed that bird and I released it back into the wild.
And all he used was Vidal and Brujan.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right. So let's before we get to grading our guy Matthew Boyd, let's talk about this Phil Maton deal. Now 2 years with an AAV of $7.5 million is the way it looks. What do you think of the deal?
I like it. I think it's an investment in somebody who has a really high strikeout rate, which is, the number one reason why I'm a fan of this signing, because if you look back at the bullpen numbers from 2025, one of the things that the relievers lacked in was, high strikeout guys that kept people off the bases and got outs via strikeout. I think if I remember correctly, the bullpen ranks like 21st in the league in strikeouts per 9 innings last year. So when you can add someone like this who is a veteran, has a proven track record, and is going to improve you on that front, I think that's a good addition. And given the amount of money that they have available to spend this offseason, I'm not really $7.5 million on one guy isn't really something that I'm going to sweat too much. And I think it's valuable too, because if you look at where their bullpen stands right now, other than Daniel Palencia, you've really lost the back part of that bullpen. You don't have Brad Keller, Drew Pomerantz, Caleb Thielbar, all those guys who are picking up the 6th, 7th, 8th innings for you. So now you have to start to build up that part of your reliever core again. So I think this is a really good first step. I like it. I would just add on to that obviously, this needs to be the first move of probably a few at least, whether it's other free agents or trades that they're going to make to build up that part of the bullpen specifically.
Yeah, I think the part, Jared, Cubs fans are going to probably trying to figure out over the next couple of weeks is when you look at the deal for Maton at $7.5 million. Strangely enough, that is the most money they've given to a relief pitcher since Craig Kimbrell in 2019. So it begs the question, and I appreciate, and you're right, man, I appreciate that they went out and they actively targeted somebody that they have interest in. They're getting him in-house now, and maybe it isn't a household name, but I do think he's a guy that's going to help the Cubs. Are you still leaning that the Chicago Cubs are going to be invested in trying to bring in more starting pitching? Or as we turn this over, is Maton perhaps maybe the crown jewel of the bullpen and they're going to switch over to starting pitching and then try and fringe their way through the bullpen? We hear a lot about Ryan Helsley right now. Like, where do you think this direction could possibly take the Cubs over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question because before Shota accepted the qualifying offer, it seemed pretty cut and dry that starting pitching was going to be another one of their targets. We talked about guys like Dylan Cease, Michael King, and pitchers like that. But now that Shota has accepted this qualifying offer, I think that muddies those waters just a little bit, where some of their investment may shift back to the bullpen because you just don't need to fill a spot in the rotation like it seems like the Cubs thought that they were going to need to. Because to me, just sort of reading between the tea leaves here is that I think Jed Hoyer was, I don't want to say banking on someone else making an offer to Imanaga or him declining the qualifying offer, but I think that was something they were prepared for. And so if they had to lean one way or another, I think they were sort of expecting that maybe that was what was going to happen. And it didn't. So I think that's changed things slightly. So I do think that you're going to see a little bit more of a focus on the bullpen because some of the money that they might have spent on somebody like a starting pitcher is now going to shift in that direction because what they can spend on starting pitching has changed now. And so I think that has taken some of these guys off of the board, so to speak. And for better or worse, that's, pitching is so much the market right now where I'm of the opinion that they need to add a bat. But right now, at least, the market's about pitching. And so you got to go with what the market's giving you. So I do think you're going to see a little bit more of a focus on the bullpen before they do anything else.
Yeah, Jared, I'm not sure how big they'll, Joey mentions Helsley because we've seen the reports on, like, would he fit? Yeah, put him with Palencia and Maton, and then you figure out who else might be, like, is Ben Brown potentially going to be a gas guy that you could put in the bullpen? Now all of a sudden I can see a picture through which I could see Jed Hoyer looking and saying, wow, on paper, this could be a really good, totally different bullpen in 2026 with more big arm guys. If you added Helsley, I threw out the name Kopech. Like, the Dodgers will look at guys and say, well, we're just going to go spend on whoever. Now, they may not want to let Kopech go, but at the same time, I'm not so sure about that. They go for the biggest fish. Like, I could see the Dodgers being like, well, we want Diaz and we want Helsley. That'd be Dodgerish, right? Like, so
maybe
somebody like Kopech is available. And I can see a vision to where at least the Cubs could be building a good bullpen. This is the first piece. I hope he's not, as you mentioned, the big piece to the puzzle. Like, I hope Maton's not the biggest piece to this bullpen in the offseason, because if that's the case, then I'm not sure I believe in it.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. But I think one of the things that's helpful for Cubs fans to remember is that one of the things that this front office has been consistently good at over the last several years is building a bullpen that on paper going into spring training, you might think, what is this group of arms that we have? And yet they they do a really good job of getting a lot out of guys that you don't necessarily expect. I mean, tell me in May that Drew Pomerantz was going to be one of the most important bullpen arms in your postseason. And we'd all think that that's nuts, but they are very, very good at that. So that's something that I would just keep in mind for everybody is whatever moves they're making for this bullpen, they may not pick up some of the guys that seem like the obvious choices, but I trust that when it comes to building their group of relievers, that this front office knows what they're doing. They are startlingly good at it and have been for several years now. So I trust them there. And I do think, somebody like Kopech, who, we're pretty familiar with just because he played for the White Sox for a while. He's been a big name for some time. I'm of the opinion that there's still a tremendous amount of untapped potential in that arm that I would feel pretty excited about what the Cubs could do with someone like him if he were to become available. Because I can't see that being a very, Luke, you're right, like a very Dodgers sort of move. Like, we don't need this guy. We'll go out and get some of these top name pitchers and let him go.
Like letting Brazier go.
yeah, like letting Brazier go. Yeah, take him. We're talking to Jared Willis here. You can read his excellent work on ALLCITY.com. So here's what I want to ask you, because when we talk about Maton, he signed him for 7.5. It feels like when we talk about the bullpen with the Cubs, the ceiling seems to be about $9 million for a player. Like Kittredge was 9, Presley was 9. That seems to be about their ceiling. So we were talking about it with Kopech the other day, and Sean was like, he's a $10 million player. No shot is Kopech getting $10 million now, in my opinion, on the open market, or he probably won't get it from the Cubs. So 7.5 with Maton, you could make the argument that he might be more of the pricier additions to the bullpen. When we talk about the starting rotation, Jared, forget rumors and innuendo right now. As a baseball man, who on the open market intrigues you the most if the Chicago Cubs were to target them? Is it Dylan Cease, Tetsuya Imai, Michael Kingsman thrown around? What is your preferred choice, or which pitcher intrigues you on the starting end that the Cubs could add?
Well, I think, and I mentioned this, I was on the show with Corey a week or so ago, but I mentioned Dylan Cease back then, and I still feel the same way. And it's not because of the, his history with the organization and the 2017 trade and all of that. It's just because looking at the kind of pitcher that he is right now and what he would do for your rotation, because I want power arms in this rotation. I want guys that throw hard and throw some serious heat and get strikeouts. That's what I'm craving in the Cubs rotation. And Cease is somebody who I think can really bring you that. And I know he's been a little up and down from year to year, but one of the things that's been consistent with Cease is his fielding independent pitching. Those numbers stay pretty steady. And so what I would love to see is Dylan Cease pitching in front of the Cubs defense, because when he's pitching with, Dansby and Nico and PCA all lined up behind him, I feel really good about that. So to me, he would be my number one target. I would love to see Dylan Cease in a Cubs uniform.
And he doesn't cost you 2 young prospects just like Sonny Gray did, right? Like, if you're just comparing apples to apples, you say, well, Sonny Gray costs money and some prospects, and it's like, well, the Cubs have the money. That's their advantage over everybody in the division. I know that eventually they're going to have to trade some of these prospects, and maybe that is how they acquire their other starter. But maybe it's also how they acquire the other bat, right? Like, I don't care where they use the prospects to go ahead and get somebody. I just don't know if it has to be starter, because starter is out there on a platform. There are multiple starters they can go get. And I agree with Jared. Cease seems like a really good fit because he's different than anybody else in the Cubs rotation right now. Now, speaking of the Cubs rotation, our report card is coming up next. We're going to grade Mr. Matthew Boyd, Mr. All-Star, one of the best signings of last year that really kind of got like a meh reaction when it happened. But now all said and done, we say, wow, tip of the cap to Jed Hoyer on that one. So we're going to do that next. Let us know in the live YouTube chat, what grade would you give Matthew Boyd? But first, a word from our sponsors here on the CHGO Cubs Podcast. New vehicles are in store at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and this is your chance to score a great deal at their Black Friday sales event. Head to Ray CDJR on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. And right now, you can get 0% financing for 60 months on all new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee L models or up to $10,000 off MSRP. Plus, shop over 125 vehicles they have priced under $20,000. Their friendly team of brand experts will help you on each step of your car shopping journey. Plus, because they prioritize affordability, you're not going to overpay for your vehicle. No. Go check out our partner today. New vehicles are serving the community since 1963.
And to quote the great Eddard Stark, winter is coming? No, winter is here. And is your home's heating up for the challenge? Do you got yourself a plumbing emergency? You call Four Seasons. Electrical emergency? You can call Four Seasons. Need a new hot water tank installed today? You can call Four Seasons. Now is the time to schedule your Four Seasons furnace tune-up. And if you're thinking about a whole home generator, we've got you covered. At Four Seasons, they guarantee same-day installation for all your heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, and generator needs with no extra charge for nights, weekends, or holidays. You can now save up to $4,000 on furnaces and comfort systems with Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric. Furnaces at $39 a month, and furnace AC combos, $57 a month. Call today and save $50 with your trusted local experts. It's Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing. They've been serving the community for over 50 years. Four Seasons Heatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. Four Seasons Heatingcooling.com.
Back on the CHGO Cubs podcast, we are getting ready to grade Matthew Boyd's 2025 season with our guy, Jared Willis. I think we can all agree it was a terrific signing by the Cubs last offseason, even though, similar to this Maton deal, went into it and said, well, that better not be all they do, right? Now, two totally different players in situations, but similar reaction from me, at least, was that is a nice deal. I kind of like the way that could possibly work out, but I'm not saying that's the splash I was necessarily hoping for or looking for. Boyd was everything and beyond. Like, the Cubs ask for guys to exceed projections. I mean, he blew him out of the water.
Yes.
Phipps was saying the guy might pitch 40 innings.
And win 4 games.
40 innings, right? Instead, he went out, was an all-star, and he was the only Cubs pitcher to make every single start in the regular season. So I guess I'll start first. My regular season grade was simple. An A. He was an all-star. He made every start, and he exceeded all projections. That's one of the few guys I can look very easily and with a clear conscience say, A, period. He was that good. Jared, how did you feel about his regular season? Was there anything that made you feel like you would come down at all from A?
No, I mean, to me, there's no – I'd be really searching to find a reason not to give him an A. Because I look at things like you mentioned, he made every start, and in a rotation where, you lost Justin Steele for the year, you lost Imanaga for a big stretch, Tyon was hurt for a big stretch. So to have one of your starters who can make every start, I think out of 31 starts, 17 of them were quality starts. So over half the time, this guy's giving you a quality start. And I don't want to judge him just based on like expectations versus performance, but it is kind of hard to ignore that. But if you just look at his 2025 season in a vacuum, there's not much more you can ask out of one of your starting pitchers than what he did. So, to me, the regular season was an easy A.
Yeah, so I gave him an A minus. So here's why. Here is why. Okay, let's start with the pros, right? And you guys are 1,000% correct. And I think if there was any gift basket that Jed Hoyer might want to send to a particular player for getting an extension in the middle of the season, signing Matthew Boyd definitely deserves, some candy.
Harry and David.
Yeah,
that's a Harry and David one.
Some
you
chocolate turtles.
Those special pairs.
100%. Because, again, yes, the expectations walking into the year were incredibly low. And I think Cubs fans, probably rightly so, were scratching their head and saying, wow, $14 or $15 million for this player who's coming back from injury, who pitched great for the Guardians in the playoffs the year before, but out of the bullpen What does this mean and what does this look like? Well, he threw 179 innings this year. That is more than the past 3 seasons that he had pitched combined, almost more than the past 4 that he had combined, where he threw about 202 innings heading into that year. And these are more of the pros. Won 14 games. K rate, 21.4%. Walk rate, 5.8%. Lowest of his career. He upped the curveball to 11.3%, and he brought back his four-seamer with great success for 46.5% because he was in the zone 68% of the time, especially with, first pitch strikes, he was in the zone 67.8% of the time. Pitches in the zone at 54.5%. And then that changeup was so lethal for him, holding batters to 205 batting average. He gets a minus because Jared, man, you said it, is that his expectations were so far exceeded, but I have to be realistic and honest with the production. And in the second half, the 179 innings was tested. There were moments where I think we were contemplating, and maybe they were internally contemplating, should we give this guy a blow? Should we back off of this guy a little bit just because he was in uncharted territory? And to his credit, and honestly, the credit goes to not just his athletic ability, but I think like the credit goes to the man for finding something deep down inside and digging down deep, especially towards the end of the year. And we'll talk about the playoffs in a little bit, about finding that little extra to go out there every 5th day and continue to compete and give them a chance to win. When Matthew Boyd was right, he was an all-star, a deserved all-star. But in that second half, again, after the all-star break, ERA 4.63, September ERA over 5, ran out of gas just a little bit there. But again, the A- still a great grade, guys. It's still a great grade, but I did
backflips for an A-.
I gave PCA an A for the season. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to give Matthew Boyd an A- because it was damn good. It maybe just wasn't exactly the PCA type.
Yeah, but I don't think his low was ever as low as PCA's lows.
That's fair.
Right? Like, maybe his highs weren't quite as high as PCA, but his lows were definitely not as low. And the Cubs should have never expected him to throw 179 pitches. It was the second highest amount of his entire career, okay? And this is what scares me about what you were saying earlier, Jared, when you say, Imanaga's back. Maybe the Cubs will do a little bit less. Maybe that impacts what they will do in the rotation, what they will spend in the rotation. There are, for me, so many uncertainties in that rotation. As I look at it right now, if the Cubs were to leave this rotation the way it is and just add some little fringe, non-roster invitee type deals and say, well, we can get by with that, they would be repeating the same problem they had at the end of last season. They'd be making the same mistake because right now, with Imanaga back, the Cubs have the opportunity for the rotation to be an absolute weapon for the Cubs all season long in 2026 and beyond. Or with just a few little things tinkering to the wrong side, it could be an absolute time bomb. And the reason I say that are, go through the guys we're talking about. People are saying Justin Steele. Sandy Alcantara didn't pitch well at all last year until the very end of the season. It's the second Tommy John. I can't count on Steele. Do I want him to? Yes. Could he be a massive bonus for this team if he's ready to grow? Yes. Shota, we've all talked about the warts at the end of the season. We don't know what's going to happen there. We have Cade Horton, who we all believe in and saw the high performance, but he's ended the last 2 seasons injured, and he just threw more than he's ever thrown in his professional career for the Cubs. It's at least a slight question mark. Tyone is the least amount of question marks, but his ceiling's the least high of the group. And then you get to Matthew Boyd and you say, all right, Matthew Boyd exceeded all of these projections. So I went back and I looked and I said, all right, when has he done this, right? Well, the only time he went over the 179 innings that he threw last year was 2019. First of all, we're talking 6 years ago. He was 34 years old now. It's totally different. He threw 185 innings. You know how many home runs? I can't even believe the stat is right, so somebody else look it up and confirm it for me. He gave up 39 home runs that inning. Yeah, he went 185 innings, but clearly the production was eased back and he wasn't nearly as effective. His ERA was above 4.5, and he gave up almost 40 home runs.
With the Tigers, right?
Yeah.
That's alarming because he was coming off his 3rd highest total innings, which was 170 innings when he had a 4.39. So very easily could I look at 2026 and say, well, based on history and the times where he started throwing more innings, his ERA started ballooning more towards like 4.5. And then when he did it and he went from his second highest total, or his highest total overall, he started giving up the home run a lot more. I'm not saying he's not going to be good, and I think he was an absolute bulldog for him last year. But if you think Matthew Boyd's automatically going to repeat what he did last year, there's a cautionary tale in the history of his career saying, when he throws a lot of innings, be careful, because the production might not be that of an all-star the next year. And maybe the Cubs are looking at that. Maybe the Cubs are saying, well, yeah, but he'd be a great 4 or 5 next year. But to do that, then you better bring somebody in, right, Jared?
Yeah, and you're illustrating the point really nicely, because what I think this should show all of us is it's a testament to the need for depth in that rotation for multiple reasons. One, to protect yourself from injury, but two, so that you can push Boyd back in that rotation a little bit to lighten his innings load, because you don't want him as your 1 or 2 or even 3 starter, if for no other reason than to keep him from throwing 180 innings in a season. Because as we saw in 2025, we saw, you've shown us back 6 years ago with very similar pattern. Once those innings start creeping up, that's where he doesn't look like the same kind of pitcher that he does in April, May, and June. So all that to me comes down to, you need depth. You need, and like sturdy, reliable depth for the rotation, not just kind of adding around the margins. And I go back to somebody like a Dylan Cease, where you bring him in or someone like him, and then Boyd can safely be your 4 or 5 starter. And that's where I feel a lot more comfortable.
And also, like, if you have like this amazing depth of starting pitchers, Matthew Boyd isn't a stranger to pitching out of the bullpen or giving you some long relief. I'm not suggesting that he should do that, but he has that kind of experience. Jared, I want to nerd out with you for a second here. For Matthew Boyd to repeat his season next year, in your opinion of his pitch selection, what do you think is his secret sauce, right? Fastball at 93 miles an hour. The changeup was fantastic this year, and so was the slider. But he got a whiff rate of 32.9 on the changeup, whiff rate on 34.2 on the slider. Not that far different. Use his curveball the most he has since 2018, up to 11%. Kind of flipping it up there for like that first pitch curveball strike. But the key to Matthew Boyd, of all those pitches, what is the one pitch that is his secret sauce that he needs to dial in and stay locked in next year to repeat his performance?
Yeah, with that, I think even though the fastball is not his best pitch, so much of it depends on, like, you have to be able to build on that fastball. And so if that fastball isn't right, then none of the other pitches matter. And so if a batter knows they can eliminate your fastball and they don't have to worry about it, then they can sit on the curveball or the changeup or the slider. And so to me, the key is pretty simple. It's not an overpowering fastball. It's not going to be at this part in your career, but I think dialing that in and really being able to locate it well and locate it consistently, that's the key, because then you disrupt the batter's timing for some of those other pitches, which is going to allow them to continue to be effective. So, yeah, it's like, I guess, it feels like a pitching 101 sort of answer, but you build off of the fastball, and that's it to me.
I agree. I'm so happy that you said that, because when we saw him in the playoffs, I think fastball command is kind of what got away from him, and I think he almost had to overuse that changeup that was so damn good all year long. But if you keep flashing it over and over again, it just keeps putting it at risk of possibly being hit, in the air, right? And that's when the slugging percentage goes up. And I think I'm with you, man. I think it all starts with fastball command with Matthew Boyd, and those other pitches are dynamite, but they work off of that, right? And I think that's something, if you're pinpoint with that, because here's the thing that I loved about Matthew Boyd was he was so locked in at certain points last year where he was just using all of his pitches whenever he wanted, wherever he wanted. And as a hitter, I was like, oh man, is it going to be a fastball up and in? Is it going to be a change up down? Is it going to be a slider at my back foot? Or is he going to flip this little lollipop curveball for a first pitch strike that I didn't see coming? When he had all those rolling, I think it was because they had to respect that inside fastball, Luke.
Yeah, and I think he has better touch on those other pitches than he does his fastball. So what is that fastball command? Well, he was tired. And then the mechanics change just a little bit on the pitch that you have the least amount of command on, and that becomes a problem because, as Jared said, if they can eliminate the fastball. So let's get to the postseason, where we know at the end of the season he was tired. Should the Cubs have rested him at the end of the season? I said it was the only pitcher that made every single start in the regular season. The answer is yes. The problem is I don't know how they were going to do it. Like, you would have had to have said, all right, Wicks or somebody else is going to make a start, and we're just going to, whatever happens in this game happens. He didn't want to do it. To his credit, he pitched through it, but we saw him obviously tired. Now, he was tired in the postseason, and one thing, while it wasn't, he wasn't necessarily the all-star in the postseason, and I think they talked about that in a lot of the broadcasts, like, hey, this guy was an all-star, but he's running down. But man, he was a bulldog. Like, when it didn't go well, he was angry, and the last time we saw him, when they needed him, and it was on one extra day's rest, again, command, rest, not being as worn down, he was everything they needed. Like, he was the guy that they had seen at the beginning of the season. It was like, man, I believe in that guy. And it goes back to me for everything that happened with him throughout the year, and it goes back to all the adversity he had to face leading up to last season for the Cubs, or maybe the last postseason. He's faced it. Like, you don't make too many first all-star starts at his age. So he knows how to deal with that. And so, yes, it was adversity facing that he was tired, but the last time we got to see him, he was awfully good again. And so while it wasn't a perfect grade, I still could keep it easily in the B range, because I looked at him and said, when I needed him the most, that's when he was that guy. So it wasn't a perfect postseason, but I'll still give him a B because he absolutely battled. Mm-hmm. What do you guys give him? I mean, it wasn't as good as the regular season.
Yeah, I'll go real quick, and then we'll toss it to Jared. I went B2 as well. Yeah, that first start against the San Diego Padres, 4 1/3 inning, only 1 run allowed. 2 strikeouts, no walks, 4 hits. Can't really ask for anything else. No. They kept him in the game, did a great job. I think the thing that's going to drag this thing down to a B, and a part of this isn't his fault, right? This is a team effort when we talk about this. But the Milwaukee Brewers put a sneak attack on Matthew Boyd in that series, right off the jump in Game 1. 3 back-to-back doubles, not a great way to start. Couldn't even finish the first inning. But again, when you look at it, 6 runs allowed, only 2 earned because of a Nico Hoerner error that you're never, ever going to see again. So this grade, unfortunately, is a byproduct of some elements that are a little bit out of Matthew Boyd's control. But we would not be sitting here and telling the truth if we didn't say that was a really strange, weird tone setter for the entire series. It was a situation and a decision that was second guessed by Craig Counsell about bringing him back on short rest. And then, of course, Matthew Boyd comes back when they need it and then twirls 4 2/3 shutout innings, walked 3 guys but struck out 6 in an absolutely electric performance at Wrigley Field. And Jared, like, I'm landing on a B because that first start was really, really bad. Put the Cubs pitching staff behind the 8 ball. Did not get a great taste in any Cubs fans' mouth to start the series. But walking out of it, Matthew Boyd and Jameson Taillon, they're Cubs for me because of what they did also in that series. And that bounce back start is why I'm elevating that up to a B.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I'm in very much the same range. I said B+ for the postseason. I think because you have to factor in that Game 1 start in the division series. And we all knew before that series started, with those first 2 games in Milwaukee, you had to take one of those. That was an almost impossible series for the Cubs to win if you don't take one of those first 2 games. And when you start off on the note that they did in Game 1, it really, really makes things tough. And you're right. Like, it's very fair to point out the Nico Hoerner error, which is a small part of the reason why I went B+ instead of B, just because there was at least some part of that Game 1 start that wasn't entirely his fault. That said, you're serving up doubles in the first 3 at-bats. Like, that's all on you, buddy. Sorry. But I look at what he did in the wild card game. He was very solid. And then so much of it though, is he came back later in that division series, and the performance he delivered there was massive. Unfortunately, all things told, it wasn't enough, for the team as a whole to get past the Brewers. But yeah, overall, can't complain a whole lot about what Boyd did in the postseason. But that game one was pretty bad.
What's your overall grade for him then?
I think, I went back and forth on like how much do I weigh the postseason as a part of this grade, because I do think postseason performance is really, really important. So I kind of wavered between the A- B+ range, just because I thought, hey, when it comes down to it, when do we really want these guys the most? And so I was a little tempted to bump him down to a B+ for the year, but then that just felt very unfair to what he had done from April up through the end of September. And I said it during the season on a couple of post-game shows, you don't get to the playoffs without Matt Boyd doing what he did during the regular season. So that's why I ended up, bumping him up to an A-. We're right to point out the fact that he faded a little in the second half, but I think they know what they can do in 2026 to sort of curtail that a little bit. So, I don't expect him to replicate his performance next year, but my hope is that the Cubs don't need him to, because if they need him to, that's a failing of the front office. That's not a Matt Boyd problem. So to me, it's a A-.
Amen. That's what I say to that. Like, it wasn't his fault that he was worn down. The Zips projection was 40 innings for the guy last season. He blew away expectations. As Jerry Maguire, he had me at hello. He had me in the first interview that he did where he starts talking about his grandfather and what a big Cubs fan he was. And he sucked me in with the emotional part of this story. Then he pitches like an all-star because he was an all-star. So I like to compare these guys not only to, are they getting value? Are they exceeding projections? Are they exceeding their contract? The answer is yes, yes. Then I look at it and say, well, how does he compare to the rest of the guys, his peers, the other peers around the league? He was an all-star. He was an all-star, so he was absolutely elite at one point. The wearing down part was not his fault. And then he goes to the all-star game, and doggone it if the guy doesn't cry about the Cubs. If he doesn't cry about being a Cub and grandpa, and you're just sucked in again, and he was so quickly becoming the easiest Cub to root for of almost all time. Like, you just looked at the guy and like, I want this guy in my team. I want him pitching big games. He might be worn down, but when it comes down to it against the Brewers, I want him pitching. And so I gave him an A- too. Was it an absolutely perfect season? No, that would have included an amazing start every time out in the postseason. But A-? Come on. Well, I'm talking. What's the lowest percentage you can give an A-? Is that, what is that, 90?
90. It's a 90.
Well, then I'm giving him a 91.
You seem pretty sure about that.
Well,
did you get a lot of 90s?
So look, I gave him a B. I gave him a B+.
Oh,
and look, I'm gonna shine. I'm gonna shine on
Let
Matthew
Grandpa
Boyd.
cry. Come
Look,
on.
all right. Look, we're gonna shine on him for a second here, but
Okay.
we just did illustrate he did not get out of the first inning of the NLDS in the game one. Okay,
Reality.
I'm sorry. So I'm splitting the difference here with an A- and a B. But I agree with everything that you guys are saying, that his grandfather would be proud, because I'm proud of him as a Cubs fan. And more specifically, like when we were doing those watch-alongs and we were talking about those things, and you were joining us, Jared, from the locker room after games, it really was becoming apparent that when you are trying to win a World Series, or when you're just trying to win a pennant, there is another level of play and competition that, as an athlete, as a performer, and as a greater whole as a team, that you have to raise. You have to bring it up to a certain level to move past these certain rounds, because the competition gets so high and so fierce. And we were looking around the room, and I remember saying specifically, I was like, Shota Imanaga, like, I'm looking at you, man. You've been an all-star. It's time for you to raise your level of play. And unfortunately, he wasn't locked in. Mechanics were a little out of whack, and he didn't do it. But guess who did? Jamison Tyone and Matthew Boyd. For 2 starts, 2 out of those 3 starts, he gave us everything that he had. And yeah, we can have that conversation because he probably was out of gas. But guess what? That didn't matter to Matthew Boyd, because when he stepped on the mound, he was representing his family, he was representing the Cubs, and he was trying to get a win out there, and he did exactly that. And I have a ton of respect for him. I agree with you, Luke. I root for him deeply. And Jared, you got an opportunity. Look, you got an opportunity to spend some time with him. You wrote a great piece on him during the playoff series about the man and also some of the foundations that are near and dear to his heart. And I'm not asking you to speak upon every single crevice and inch and aspect of his life, but can you speak on a little bit about the person that Matthew Boyd is, as well as the player, because I think that's really important too. And that's the reason why I think he's such a beloved Cub, and a Cub that I'm going to hold with reverence for a very long time.
I think that's very deserving, because I think in the realm of like one of the nicest, most genuine players I've come across, period. He's very, very high in that list. Maybe up at the top. Kyle Hendricks gives him a real run for his money, but so you have that. But one of the things that really stood out to me about him was his demeanor after that game one start of the division series. When we went into that locker room after that game was over, he looked like a guy who was ready, like, let's go out there again today. I want to go at these guys again right now. That was his demeanor. And that's the thing, like, I cannot tell you enough. I could talk for hours. Extraordinarily nice guy, genuine, a good person. Can't say enough about him as a human being. But all of that is wonderful. But I will not forget what he was projecting after that game one start, because he was ready, like, let's get in the ring again right now and let's go. So great guy, extraordinarily fierce competitor, and that was unmistakable.
That's awesome to hear. His foundation did great things. Listen, that's why when I look at this offseason and I dream of Cease, I say, okay, now we get to the playoffs next year, and you go Cease, or you go Horton, Cease, and for me, number 3 is Boyd.
Yes.
And then the fourth guy you take from a group of Tyone, Shota, and maybe a resurgent Justin Steele back from injury. That feels like a plan. Now, that's a plan I can get with. And I also can go with that same plan and say, and all, if it works, let's say Steele comes back and is Justin Steele. Well, you know what? Boyd has shown that he can pitch in the postseason as a reliever. So now you could also make him either the fourth starter in a postseason, or you could move him to the bullpen where he could be super relevant. That's why it's so important that right now the Cubs don't rest on Shota's back for $22 million. They got to go get a 1 or a 2, some sort of frontline starter that can carry the load, not only with heat, but also in innings. They need somebody that can throw at least 170 innings next year.
Yeah, long gone are the days when, like, the fifth starter, like the no one talks about Jason Hamill on the 2016 Cubs, right? No. But he went out and he won double-digit games for that team, but they couldn't use him in the playoffs because that was a different time. We saw just in this World Series, Jared, Chris Bassett coming out of the bullpen, other guys soaking up multiple innings. So we don't have to necessarily, like, carve out that role for Matthew Boyd, but if you have that type of depth, and maybe a Justin Steele does come back, Colin Ray does come back, you still have such great quality coming out of your bullpen if it is only those 12 to 15 outs that starters are now expected to go in a postseason game.
Yeah, and I think that's worth, if you look at by comparison, the way that the Cubs had to use their pitching staff versus, say the Dodgers had to use their pitching staff. I'm going to give a shout out to one of our commenters in the chat about, the Dodgers using the most pitchers in the postseason. Like, when you have those weapons available, when you have those guys that can do that, that's one thing. That's that depth. I go back to that I talked about earlier. But then also, look at what they got from, Yamamoto and being able to get long starts in the postseason. That's massive. Now it's unusual, highly unusual in today's baseball. But that really makes a huge difference as well. So I just go back to you have to give, like, real depth to that pitching staff so that you can use guys like Colin Ray and Matt Boyd in slightly different roles, and you don't have to lean on them the way that they did this past year.
Well, we kept Jared much longer than he was probably expecting. We were going to keep him today. Because I lied. I said, let's just do the last 3 segments, and he had no way to respond to it because we were on live on the podcast. So there we go. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Appreciate you coming on today. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. And Joey and I will be back tomorrow.
Yes.
At 2:00. Jared, I don't think you want to be part of this because we're going to be doing something a little. We're going to do the Thanksgiving holiday draft. Mm-hmm. That will be tomorrow.
This is the first year I'm missing it.
Oh, Sarah's going to miss it.
I have to do Blackhawks postgame tomorrow.
Yeah, it gets a little silly.
Yeah,
and we will do our good, better, best, never let it rest. Birds that you have dined on. Until then, thanks for watching the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by Toyota.
Great stuff, Jared.
We appreciate Jared Willis. We appreciate you in the chat. We'll see you tomorrow at 2:00. Until then, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.